In Chapter 3 of Word, we work with inserting tables. Now, a table is a series of rows and columns similar to Excel if you've used Excel before. You can create any size table that you want within the Insert tab in Microsoft Word. If I go up here to Insert, you can see there's a drop-down arrow for tables. So if I click it, I can actually use this grid to put a table in. Or there's other options where I could insert a table by drawing it, or choose Insert Table right here, and it allows me to choose the number of rows or columns that I want to insert. But I'll go ahead and use the design grid to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and create a table. And you can see what it does. It brings up our contextual tabs, so Table Tools Design and Table Tools Layout, which we've been mentioning. And another thing I want you to observe is that by default, borders are turned on. You can also draw the table, and you can also draw your borders. If I want to select the table, there's a selection box right up here in the upper left hand corner. Now the entire table is selected. If I want to remove the borders at this point, I can hit the drop down arrow and say no borders, and now you can see I have a table here, but there are no borders anymore. I can also go back to borders and turn on grid lines. So if I don't actually want to see a border, I can use these grid lines. What I want to do next, though, is I want to apply just an outer border. So I'm going to go back to borders, hit the drop down arrow, and choose borders and shading. One of my choices is box, and I'm going to choose a certain width, similar to what we did in Chapter 2 when we bordered and shaded a paragraph. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK, and you can see it puts an outer border around my table. And I can deselect this. Now, some other things about tables that you want to be aware of. It works similar, as I said, to Excel. And Excel recognizes columns with letters and rows with numbers. So right now, this would be considered column A. This is column B. This is column C. This would be row 1, row 2, and row 3. Next, what I want to do is go ahead and insert some more rows. So if I go to the Layout tab, and notice there's an option to insert below or above. I'm going to click Insert a couple of times, and I want to type in CIS 1050 Winter 2016. And you can see what happened when I typed the text. It wrapped down to the next line and it expanded out the little cell here. I want to select that text and all the columns across. I want to merge that information, and I want to center it. So over here under alignment, you have your different centering options. So I'm going to center that title. And then over here, I'm going to put the word tuition. And underneath that, I'm going to put a couple of values here. So I'll put 300 and 200. And then I want to insert another row below. So I'm going to click Insert. And down here, I'm going to put the word total. And what I want to do is add up these two numbers by using a function. So again, if you're familiar with Excel, you can use the same functions that they have in Excel in Word tables. So while we're still under the Layout tab under Table Tools, over here to the right we have a Formula button. And if I click on it, the default function is to sum, and it says sum above. So it just means it's going to grab these two cells and add them up. Sum is short for summation. And notice there's also a format feature here. And I can also put in different functions from the drop-down arrow. I'll go ahead and hit OK, and you can see it adds up the two numbers for me, and thus we get our $500.